an unconstitutional hoax.
Aloha and welcome to Trust and Verify, the only show where the host consistently tell you, don't trust me, verify it. Before we can get to that verification, though, you got to hear what we got to say, and I got to introduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Bumper. Buggy, how's it going, brother?
Good, mate. Good to be with you once again. Thanks, everyone, for joining us in the chat. Thanks for sharing the show out. If you did, if you didn't, well, I guess you can stick around. Should we let them stick around?
Yeah, we'll let them stick around.
Just this once, though. Just this once. Can we open the kimono a little bit? Because I'm sure people, I just want to get ahead of the curve. We talk about, on this show, we dissect a lot of media narratives, and we often, we're ahead of the story that they print, sometimes weeks and months in advance just by looking at what they're framing today. We can see what they're going to be talking about tomorrow. So I just want to get ahead of the story and say, yes, James does look incredibly tired. Open the kimono a little bit. I want to open the kimono. James literally woke up 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, maybe 15 minutes ago. I got in touch with him and I'm like, hey, what's going on, comrade? Are you getting up any time today? So he's been working incredibly hard, and I woke him up, and all of the preparation done for today's show, believe it or not, I found myself with a 10-minute window where I could actually do some prep for this show before we started whilst I was sitting on the toilet. So there you go. That's the length. That's the length we go to. That is unbelievably wide open kimono right there. Like that is the kimono, like completely naked and nude running down the street. Wide open kimono right there. Listen, happy Easter to everybody. I do want to get that out before we get moving here. Happy Easter to everybody in the audience, everybody around the world, and prayers for everyone in Sri Lanka. Yeah, absolutely. And, because I did find these stories while I was sitting on the toilet, you won't be surprised to note there's a large number of Democrats. So I don't know if you can put two and two together. Maybe, maybe not. Let's kick it off, James. One of the foundations in this time of Easter, James, of rebirth, of regeneration, of resurrection, and love of Christ. And one of the things that Christ preached was giving, James, charity. And it's important to give and look out for your fellow man. So imagine my surprise when I found this story this morning. New Patriotic Millionaire group says, please tax me more. The Patriotic Millionaires, James. Did you know that now asking for more to pay more tax was actually the patriotic thing to do? Did you know? Were you aware of that? How they flipped that table around? We see how the system is skewed in our favor and how that's really hurting our country and in the very long run hurting us too, the group's chairman said. And there is, of course, Pocahontas, the brave chief, James, looking over the herd. Karen Steele Stewart is rich and she wants to pay more in taxes. Yes, you read that right. Stewart is one of the Patriotic Millionaires, James, a group of about 200 wealthy individuals worth billions combined who say they should be taxed more and as soon as possible. I love the fact that they call themselves the Patriotic Millionaires because, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't one of the catalysts for the Revolutionary War the increased taxation that was being handed down by the monarchy? Is that correct or not?
Yes. That's absolutely correct.
So imagine if we could go back in time, the Patriots would actually be saying, no, whatever the king wants, you give to him. Right. We should be paying more taxes. We're incredibly rich. This is the patriotic thing to do, James. My first question is, aren't they able to pay more tax if they want anyway?
Oh, yeah, there's a line. Yep, there's a line. Every single one of these fucking idiot millionaires can just add a gift to the IRS. There's literally a line that you can just write it in. They make it super simple. It's even part of the math equation that they put up for you, where you got to, do the isosceles triangle divided by the parallelogram. They got it right there where it just is a nice and simple minus sign. that you can put any amount in there you want. And you could even tell them, please spend it on your local parks, or please spend it on, whatever the hell you want. If these guys were serious, they could give them all the money they wanted.
At this moment, there's a select group of very successful people who are actively seeking to pay more in taxes. NBC's political reporter Ali Vitali in my favorite city in America, Charleston, South Carolina, with this story. Ali, tell me about this people. We've heard guys like Warren Buffett for years complaining that his secretary pays more than he does. But are people actually getting out their checkbooks at this point?
Yeah, Stephanie, your favorite city in America, a little windy here this morning, but you're exactly right. While most Americans are complaining about how high their tax bill is, I caught up with a group of individuals who say they want theirs to be higher because they think it's only fair.
Can you imagine the detachment? While most Americans are complaining that their taxes are too high, I found somebody worth $300 million who disagrees. In fact, they want to pay more taxes, James. They can't wait to pay more taxes. Of course, they could pay more taxes, but this is the false paradigm, isn't it? It's not about them being morally good. It's not about them being patriotic. It's not about them doing the right thing. Because, as you rightly pointed out, they can pay more tax if they want to. It's about getting everybody else to pay more tax, whether they like it or not. And since when was that patriotic thing to do?
Never.
Listen.
I'm one of the fabulous millionaires.
Karen Seal Stewart is rich.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to say it again. But present company, James, when I make this remark, is always excluded. We've spoken off air about our audience being one of the most intelligent audiences, if not the most, on this little app. But I have to say, wherever there is a call to increase taxation and move deeper into socialist territory, there is an old woman. I'm sorry.
That's true. Hey, real quick, there's a great comment in the chat because, I think we all just said these people are stupid, but Studio Smith says, I believe these people are technically retarded.
For Pearl, James, this is Pearl here, the lovely Pearl, who wants to pay more tax because she's a patriot. For Pearl, it's about for his grandkids and for his kids and grandkids, I think they meant her, who's to say these days, being able to grow up in the same kind of country where I grew up, to have the opportunities I did, and they are not going to have the same opportunities if we continue the direction we're going. But weren't taxes a lot lower when they were growing up?
I'm sorry.
Wasn't?
Yeah, these people are... the stupid gets to me, like when I seriously hear stuff like that. But yeah, 1900s, 1905 is when they brought in the Fed, and that's when taxes started going up from then. So
incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible. For some, like Senator Elizabeth Warren, James, taxing wealth as opposed to income is the answer. A proposal that sets her apart in a Democratic field that largely agrees on rolling back the tax cuts for corporations and top earners that were backed by President Donald Trump and congressional Republicans. The idea of taxing the rich more isn't just popular among the patriotic millionaires, James. In fact, 63% of voters think higher income people pay too little in taxes, according to a Politico Morning Consult online poll. And Warren's plan plays well across party lines, with 74% of Democrats backing her proposal and half of Republicans in the same poll. The problem with that question in a poll, James, it's very easy to say, hey, do you think a rich guy should pay more tax? Well, yeah, of course. Why not? But that's where it ends, right? That's where the detail ends. So unfortunately, of course, people always want more of what they don't have. That makes total sense to me.
I've explained this before 100 million fucking times, and I think it bears repeating one more time, is that anytime you hear somebody say we're going to tax the rich, grab your fucking wallet, because somebody is trying to steal it right out of your pocket, because the rich will never pay anything. They're essentially outside of the taxation system because of where they exist in the loop of business, of proceeds. And business always has to pay these equivalent shares, and everything's always going to be percentaged out, including how much money the white-collar earners earn. It doesn't matter even if they're not in charge of the business. It's just the rules of business. It's just the way the world works. Minimum wage will always equal minimum lifestyle, and then you earn your way up that ladder of success somewhere along the way. And if you own your own business, you've actually removed yourself from the taxation process. You're almost truly on the free market system. You just don't know it. Taxes from the government is just a way to regulate business. That's all it really is. They can regulate and stop you from getting into business by adding all of these taxes and fees that make it hard for the normal person to start their own business. Like, if you know as you're only earning $50,000 a year trying to support your family and do all the things you want to do, but it's going to cost you $20,000 to go start your own business, where the hell are you going to come up with that 20 grand? That's where the cycle starts. So, it's just the way of the world. That it doesn't matter what they say, what they lie to you about, how much they fucking twist the tax code. It's never going to change the principles of the world. And it doesn't matter what system of government either. It doesn't matter whether it's even a capitalist system, because even under communism, at the top level, the governments are still capitalists because they're buying and trading with other countries. It's all the same. It doesn't matter what the system of government is. All that matters in the socialist country, in a communistic country, is that they've oppressed all of that white collar level people, and they've scrunched them all down to be slaves just like everybody else. They've just pushed everybody else down. And so you end up with a very wide gap between the leadership and the common folk.
Yeah, the people at the top pull up the ladder so nobody else can join them at the top rung. That's and, right. People like to talk. It's what they want is capitalism for them and socialism for us. So we're forever stuck at a certain level and our earnings are punished. And people often talk about George Soros and, socialism is supported by George Soros. George Soros is a hedge fund manager. He is the capitalist. He buys and trades in foreign currency. That's how he made his money, through capitalism. So it's capitalism at the top and socialism for the rest. James, do you want to learn more about the campaign of hatred?
Of course.
Of course, good. I'm glad you do. Thanks to the good people at Salon, they're educating us, James. Campaign of hatred, how the Ilhan Omar right-wing outrage machine was constructed. Good. See, Donald Trump can't help but build. He's building everything, whether it's walls or bridges or roads or factories or right-wing outrage machines. Vile Islamophobia wasn't always central to Republican politics, James. This vicious bigotry took a lot of work to create. After the Christchurch massacre, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern struck exactly the right tone. How, James? What tone was that? By donning a hijab in solidarity with the victims and winning worldwide praise. There you go. Maybe Donald Trump should have put on one of those Islamic male dresses that they get around in. I don't know. Maybe he should have started strutting around in one of those. Maybe get himself a camel. Instead of driving, instead of being escorted with, the bulletproof windows car, wouldn't you like to see Donald Trump atop a camel going down Pennsylvania Avenue? I know I would. Yeah, it's a great religion. They're tremendous people. We love our Muslims. We love them. They're tremendous people. Australia's Senate overwhelmingly censured the lone lawmaker who blamed New Zealand's Muslim immigrants themselves for the attack. But things are tragically different here in America, where President Trump's promotion of a vicious smear campaign has endangered the life of America's first hijab-wearing Muslim member of Congress, Rep. Ilhan Omar. She's the victim, James. She's the victim. We spoke about this on the last show, didn't we? Attack, 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 attack. Get one thing coming back in the opposite direction. Oh, what'd you do that for? What'd you do that for? You're picking on me. Trump used an out-of-context quote, James. This is my favorite part of this article. Remember this. Trump used an out-of-context quote, which you're not allowed to do, okay, from a speech about claiming full citizenship that, as Peter Bernhardt said, beautifully evoked what I treasure about being an American Jew, which is interesting considering that it had nothing to do with Judaism. To try to make Omar seem as callous and manipulative of 9/11 as Trump himself. So Trump was callous and manipulative about 9/11. Why, do you ask? Remember, we don't want to take comments out of context, James. When Trump was asked on September 11, 2001, whether a building he owned had sustained any damage, he responded by saying, quote, the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan. I had the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan, and now it's the tallest. Oh, no. What? Oh, sickening. Disgusting. Disgusting behavior, James. But remember, Trump used an out-of-context quote. And how do we end that very same paragraph? With an out-of-context quote. The good people at Salon. Trump lied about Omar, but she told the truth about him. Since the president's tweet, Omar said in an online statement, I have experienced an increase in direct threats on my life, many directly referencing or replying to the president's video. Violent crimes and other acts of hate by right-wing extremists and white nationalists are on the rise in this country and around the world. Counties that hosted a 2016 Trump rally, get this statistic, James, saw a 226% increase in hate crimes in the months following the rally. So once Donald Trump breezes into town, everybody just starts killing each other, apparently. And this is the truth.
But it's actually a really correct statistic right there. The problem is that the out of context quote that they're keeping out of that is they were all hoaxes. They were all perpetrated by the left.
Fantastic. James, I don't think that Ilhan Omar is going to last after the next Congress. I think the Democrat Party wants to remove her perhaps even more than the Republican voters do. And so I think she might get primaried out in 2 years from now. What do you think?
I think that's possible. You can tell that the leadership is not happy with Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, and AOC. You can see that this is true. You can look at what the news stories are coming out, and we know all of the dirt being dropped is all coming from the left. It's pretty clear who's doing what to whom, and we're all sitting around laughing right now, going, "Look at these guys! They just can't stop it." So you can tell that the leadership of the left is having trouble putting these people in their place, and that's the key here, right? Is that you've even seen Nancy almost basically say those exact words that AOC needs to learn what her place is. Like. It's like, you're not running the show here. So that's the problem is these guys are used to putting freshman congressmen under their thumbs, and these three aren't playing. These three are just going on their own and think that they're in charge of the whole country. It's pretty, I think you're right. I think that the Democrats are going to have enough. They're going to finally realize, holy crap, we can't control these people. It's time to get rid of them.
Yeah, I don't know, James. I think I want to stick to the outrage machine because I've learned about the right-wing outrage machine and how it's constructed. So now, pushing on with this new knowledge that outrage is specifically comes from the right side of the political ledger, I thought I'd go to the New York Times for a bit of even balance reporting. The egomaniac in the Oval is exonerated. There is the egomaniac. Remember, James, we're not in favor of out-of-context comments and the outrage machine. Remember that. Yeah. When it comes to presidential obstruction, at least Watergate started with a crime. A stupid crime, but a crime. After 675 days, more than 2,800 subpoenas and nearly 500 search warrants, $30 million spent, endless jaw on cable and countless whiny Trump tweets, we have come down to one fundamental truth. And it's the same truth that's been terrorizing us, interesting choice of words there, all along. Donald Trump's dirtbag machinations are driven by insane vanity. Wow. Okay, I thought she was going to say that there was no crime, but wow, she got me there. I've got to say, she led me down the path and then bang, the old switcheroo, James. The first narcissist's all-consuming blend of braggadocio and insecurity has turned Washington and its rickety institutions into a dystopian outpost of his id. Id is apparently, the deep-seated parts of one's psyche, James.
Yes.
President Trump obstructed on nearly every page of Volume 2 of the Mueller report, even though Robert Mueller was too lost in legalese to throw the book at him. Ah, I see. It was so obvious, James. It was so obvious, the obstruction. But Robert Mueller, damn it, he was doing too much legal stuff, so he couldn't throw the book at him. And that's the problem. That's the problem here. He was adhering too strictly to the rules, I think you'll find, Robert Mueller. Damn it. Damn it. The report counts as the worst exoneration ever, replete with incrimination. And Trump's motivation for trying to subvert justice and turn the White House into a writhing nest of liars, James, his ego. He did not want people to think that the Russians were responsible for his election and that he was an illegitimate president. And why was this the burr under his sociopathic saddle, James? Obviously, because he thinks he is an illegitimate president. He never expected to win. Bravo. Hot take. So the reason, James, that the president got upset when people said he was an illegitimate president is because he's an illegitimate president. That's why he got upset. He's the egomaniac in the Oval Office. James, moving on. Did you know that all the reporting was correct about Russia over the last 2 years?
Oh, yes, I heard that.
Yes. Congratulations, mainstream press. You did a good job. Great job. Great job, everyone. Did a good job. Journalists were right, James. The Mueller report reads as a 400-page confirmation of years' worth of reporting on Donald Trump. From the dawn of his presidential campaign, and especially since Robert Mueller was named special counsel, President Donald Trump has waged war on professional journalism. He has maligned the press as a den of liars and fabulists. He has applied the term fake news to any story or outlet that he disliked. And we have to keep reminding people that the term fake news was actually started by the Clinton campaign for outlets such as Breitbart and Fox News. They were calling them fake news. Then everybody on the right started to call CNN fake news, and they said, you can't call us fake news. That's not fair. We're the free press. Or that he thinks dislikes them. He has mocked the failing New York Times and the Amazon Washington Post. He has tweeted an edited video of himself wrestling and overpowering a figure with a CNN logo for a head. I think that's just called a meme. It's called a meme these days. I'm glad they caught up. I'm glad they're keeping up with us. He has called the media, quote, the enemy of the people. Trump has been adamant about discrediting the media because the media has discredited him. I do it to discredit you and all and demean you all. So when you write negative stories about me, no one will believe you, Trump told Leslie Stahl in 2016. But they got everything right. So I thought, okay, let's check. Let's do a little bit of fact checking. You know how they like fact checks, James?
Yeah.
Check this out. From Glenn Greenwald. Beyond BuzzFeed, the 10 worst, most embarrassing US media failures on the Trump story. But hang on, I thought they got everything right. What's right? Let's dig in. Let's have a little look here. RT hacked into and took over C-SPAN. That was reported in Fortune magazine, James. RT. Good on RT. Russian hackers invaded the US electricity grid to deny Vermonters heat during the winter. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. Oh, yeah.
That was in the Washington Post. True news there. What else have we got down here? A new deranged anonymous group declares mainstream political sites on the left and right to be Russian propaganda outlets, and the Washington Post touts its report to claim massive Kremlin infiltration of the internet. That was on the Washington Post too. Remember, don't forget about the right-wing outrage machine. Let's go down a little bit further here. Trump aide Anthony Scaramucci is involved in a Russian hedge fund under Senate investigation. That was on CNN. That was fake. That wasn't true. Never happened. That never happened. Remember, journalists were right about everything, James. Russia attacked US diplomats at the Cuban embassy using a super sophisticated sonic microwave weapon. That was on MSNBC, NBC, CIA. They all covered that one. Do you want to see a little video of that? Let's have a look. NBC
Exclusive
News.
new reporting this morning from NBC News. Intelligence agencies investigating attacks on U.S. diplomats in Cuba and China now strongly suspect that Russia is to blame. 26 government workers in Havana had mysterious brain injuries starting in late 2016. And then this year,
I know why they had brain injuries, James, because CNN was on loop in the lobby of the building. So that's they all had massive brain hemorrhages. Trump created a secret internet server to covertly communicate with a Russian bank. That was in Slate. That was false. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Paul Manafort visited Julian Assange 3 times in the Ecuadorian embassy and nobody noticed. That was in The Guardian. That was false. So remember, they've got everything right, James. And this report actually has all of the clips, all of the citations, everything you want. CNN explicitly lied about Lanny Davis being its source for a story whose substance was also false. Cohen would testify. Cohen would testify that Trump knew in advance about the Trump Tower meeting. That's CNN. That was false. 2 more. Robert Mueller possesses internal emails and witness interviews proving Trump directed Cohen to lie to Congress. BuzzFeed. That was false. And 1 more. Donald Trump Jr. was offered advance access to the WikiLeaks email archive. He, of course, only mentioned the WikiLeaks archive after it was released. And just 1 more, just to top it off, James, and then we'll go to you for a comment. Mueller investigated rumored compromising tapes of Trump in Moscow. Remember the P tapes? They're back again. They're back.
We're back.
Special counsel Robert Mueller examined whether President Donald Trump learned during the 2016 presidential campaign of the rumored existence of compromising tapes made of him years earlier when he visited Moscow. According to a footnote in the special counsel's report, which was released Thursday, Michael Cohen, Trump's former personal lawyer, received a text from Russian businessman Georgy no chance. Sorry, mate. If you put too many consonants like that together, I'm just going to have to leave you in the dust. Georgie R, we'll call him, no relation to James. In October 2016, that, quote, stopped flow of tapes from Russia, but not sure if there's anything else, just so you know. Mr. R told Mueller that tapes referred to compromising tapes of Trump rumored to be held by persons associated with the Russian real estate conglomerate Crocus Group. BuzzFeed News published the full unverified dossier that included the infamous claim that Russian authorities had evidence of Trump watching prostitutes urinate in a hotel suite. Quote, it's on CNN, there is no indication that such a tape exists, and Trump has vehemently denied it. The Russian guy also told prosecutors that he was told the tapes were fake, but he didn't convey that to Michael Cohen. There you go.
There you go.
So I think what we're seeing here is what does a liar do? When somebody's found out to be a liar, James, they have two options, generally speaking. Okay. They either come clean or they double down. Double down. So what you're seeing now is a media-driven PR campaign in order for them to claim that they've been right all along by cherry-picking, hand-picking certain quotes that it's almost as though Robert Mueller was quoting the reporting to begin with in the Mueller report. You remember, there was a rumor that somebody mentioned this to Donald Trump and Donald Trump said this in a meeting, unverified sources stuff, and it finds its way in the Mueller report. So, I just find it interesting because after the Mueller report was dropped, the media has now made the main narrative the media yet again. Are you surprised? Are you shocked?
Not at all. Listen, I have found while you've been doing this, that you saw me type a little bit, I have found the quintessential news source that these guys are all using to tie all of this together. It'll make perfect sense. Once I show, I'm gonna tie all of these articles together right now, and this will explain what's going on perfectly. It's the Wizard of Id. It is their source that ties all this together. The king is celebrating Happy Tax Day. This is what they want. This is where they exist right here. It is the Wizard of Id comics. If you're not familiar with that, it's fantastic stuff. It's been around for decades and decades. I suggest that you check it out.
Well, James, getting ahead of the story. So the media is now telling us that for the last 2 years, they've been right about everything. In the lead to the dropping of the Mueller report, James, the Democrats were on the front foot, basically saying, remember when the media was saying, we can't show Donald Trump's rallies, we don't want to show Donald Trump's speeches because everything he says is a lie anyway, so what's the point? So that's poisoning the well, right? So right. You just say that everything the guy says is wrong, therefore anything that he says is already dismissed before it's been heard. The Democrats were doing the same thing to William Barr before his press statement, a few days ago. Here's an article for you here. Because the accusation is that William Barr is trying to spin a narrative for the rest of the world to follow. And what are they doing? They're getting out ahead of William Barr actually saying anything and saying that he's trying to spin a narrative, thus spinning a narrative that everything he says is wrong and is to cover up for the president. Check it out. Oh. We want to hear Maxine.
Barr, to do anything that would be respectful to the members of Congress or to include us in any real way. He has proven himself. He auditioned for this job. He was chosen to protect the president of the United States.
He was chosen by King Lord Trump. Why does it mute?
I'm not surprised. I'm not even disgusted because I knew that once he came out and he said there had been no obstruction of justice and that there'd been no collusion, that he absolutely stepped out early to defend the president, to protect the president. I don't expect any reversal of that. I expect him to continue to play the role. He is basically a lackey and a sycophant for the president of the United States of America, and that's all it's going to be. This report is going to be overly redacted, and I don't know if we're going to get anything new or important out of that. I just wish that the Mueller team would come forward, and I hope that Mueller will come before the committee and have a chance to tell his side of what he has done.
The report is his side of what he has done, you stupid woman. What do you think he's been doing for the last 2 years? What the hell were they spending $30 million on, James? Wow. I just hope that Robert Mueller has a chance to come forward and tell his side of the story. There's 440 pages of his side of the fucking story sitting right there. Right there. She wasn't the only one, James, getting on the bandwagon. Here's our good friend from, where is he from? New York? Jerry Nadler? New Jersey? Somewhere up there. Somewhere around there.
I think it is New Jersey.
The Attorney General
New Jersey
appears to be waging a media campaign on behalf of President Trump. The very
Remember, this is before he's even given a press conference.
Wait, what? Did he say the media was giving Donald Trump's point of view?
He said William Barr has been waging a media campaign to protect Trump. I love here, just before they start the video, look at this woman on the right here just looking at the camera. She does not want to be there. She does not want to be. She looks terrified.
The Attorney General appears to be waging a media campaign on behalf of President Trump, the very subject of the investigation at the heart of the Mueller report. Rather than letting the facts of the report speak for themselves, the Attorney General has taken unprecedented steps to spin Mueller's nearly 2-year investigation.
See, this is the thing. This is the thing. And we shouldn't even have to say this, but comrades, if you're in the audience, our Democrat comrades, you're welcome on this show. But I would suggest that a report that took 2 years, cost $30 million, had 2,800 subpoenas, about 500 interviews. If it was so watertight and the evidence was so clear, how is it even possible to spin that? How's it even possible to spin it?
And where's the indictment?
Go ahead.
Oh, I said, and where's the indictment?
Oh, exactly. Where's the indictment? Remember, he was going to get indicted. John Brennan said on MSNBC the week before the report came out, I suspect Donald Trump's going to get indicted. Let's carry on with Jerry. Jerry.
He summarized the report and cherry-picked findings in his March 24th letter to Congress. 2, he withheld summaries written by the special counsel that were intended for public consumption.
No. Summaries are never intended for public consumption in special counsel reports, Jerry. So he's lying.
Yep.
He's lying. Straight out lying to you, to anybody who'll watch it, to anybody who'll pay attention. Just on the topic, James, of cherry-picking statements, I thought I found this. My girl, Kellyanne Conway. By the way, Kelly, the option is still there. My DMs are still open. Okay, just keep it in mind. I'm not saying anything. Just keep it in mind, Kelly. I'll be here. I'm always here.
Stick to what has happened in this report. The president is now calling the report crazy. Mueller highly conflicted on March 26th. Just a few weeks ago, Trump said he thought Mueller acted honorably. Does he still think that?
I certainly do. And I think there's enormous pressure on Director Mueller and his team to have produced what many Trump haters and critics and people who got the election so wrong were hoping they would produce, which is proof that this election never should have happened. Martha, for 2 years, people denied the electability of Donald Trump. And then for 2 years, people denied the election of Donald Trump. And I think there are some people who are way too invested in the outcome here and should admit that. They should say that they're partisan or they didn't want him. They never saw his election coming. So they wanted to be able to say, I never saw his election coming because they cheated and they stole the election and they were colluding with Russia.
Let's go back to
Can we talk about the Russian interference?
Yes, we're going to talk about the Russian
I'm going to have to cut you off there, Kellyanne. You're making too much sense.
Mueller cites a series of unsuccessful actions the president took to try to influence the investigation, including
a series of unsuccessful actions the president took to try to influence the investigation. James, this is the premise for impeaching the president, which we'll get to next, the obstruction of justice thing. Explain to me how, in the report, if these actions were unsuccessful, How can you prosecute someone for obstruction of justice when you unsuccessfully obstructed justice, i.e., didn't?
Yes.
Right? Like if I try to steal a car and then end up walking down the street, I can't get arrested for stealing the car. Right?
That's right.
Because I'm not in the car. I'm not in the car. The car's still there. I haven't picked it up. I haven't stolen it.
Right.
So, well, he tried to steal a car, but he was unsuccessful. So let's throw him in jail for stealing a car. What?
Yeah.
Where's the car? Where's the evidence, James? A little bit more of this.
Obstruct, but I want to say real quick because it's just on my head to say this, is that you can't obstruct justice no matter what when you are literally justice. Like, everybody acts at the behest of the president. Like, there's no there no matter how they try to spin that. It's just, there's nothing that they could do here.
Oh, just a comment in the chat, because we've got Gary Duncan Miller, who thinks everyone's a Jesuit, James. He hates everyone. So there was a comment in the chat. The Catholic bashing is in here. Good to see. It's just Gary. Just don't mind Gary. Treat him like a parakeet in the corner.
He's got Tourette's.
And call you.
He's got Catholic Tourette's.
Yeah, that's right. He's going to squawk and make noise. Just give him a cracker and he'll be fine.
House Counsel Don McGahn telling him to have Mueller removed in June 2017 and later asking McGahn to deny that had happened. Here's what the report says. McGahn recalled that the president called him at home twice and on both occasions directed him to call Rosenstein and say that Mueller had conflicts that precluded him from serving as special counsel. McGahn recalled the president telling him, Mueller has to go and call me back when you do it. In January of 2018.
Watch this. Watch how long they keep the camera on Kellyanne and zoomed right in there, because they're watching. If she flinches, if she blinks, if she shifts uneasily in her chair, it'll be, Kellyanne was clearly disturbed when being asked on ABC about the Mueller report, right?
In the New York Times reported that the president had ordered McGahn to fire Mueller, and after, in the Mueller report, it says, after the story broke, the president, through his personal counsel and 2 aides, sought to have McGahn deny that he had been directed to remove the special counsel. Each time he was approached, McGahn responded that he would not refute the press accounts because they were accurate in reporting on the president's effort to have the special counsel removed.
Okay.
But here's what the president said when asked whether...
Remember, James, this is what they're basing their impeachment argument on. Okay, don't forget that. This is what it's all boiling. This is what they've got left.
He'd ever tried to fire Mueller.
Mr. President, have you thought about or considered leading the dismissal of the special counsel? Or is there anything that Bob Mueller could do that you would send you in that direction?
I haven't given it any thought. I mean, I've been reading about it from you people. You say, I'm going to dismiss him. No, I'm not dismissing anybody.
And this is what he said when the story came out in the New York Times about Don McGahn's refusal when asked if he sought to fire Robert Mueller. He said, fake news, folks, fake news, typical New York Times, fake news. But that's not true, is it? The president did try to have Mueller removed, and it was not fake.
That is a
The president did try to have Robert Mueller removed? James, if the president tried to remove Robert Mueller, he wouldn't be there.
That's right.
He would have been gone.
He would have been gone.
Can you explain this to people who don't understand that Donald Trump could have fired Robert Mueller at any time?
This is the reason here that they're trying to do this more than anything is they've been continually trying to sell this narrative that the president is a buffoon and it's everybody else around him that's actually running the country, that the president is not doing anything. They're trying to discredit him from all the things that he's doing as the president. That's literally the narrative that they're really trying to sell here. And I would point out that obstruction of justice looks remarkably like an innocent man defending himself. They look remarkably very similar. But if the president wanted to fire somebody, if the president of the United States in charge of the entire executive branch ordered somebody to fire somebody, they'd be fired. And if they didn't fire him, then he'd fire them and replace them and tell the next guy to fire him. And keep going down the fucking list because he has all of the authority to do so. There is nobody in the way. No court can stop it. No congressman can do shit because even if they passed a law, the president still has to sign the law. That's just the way of the system. The Constitution is crystal fucking clear on how this stuff works. So they're full of shit. That's just all narrative spin. It's because people don't understand the Constitution. It's because people don't understand what the process looks like, because people are too busy trying to live their lives to care about this bullshit. But the proof is in the pudding. When the special counsel's report was released, all CNN, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, all of them lost over half of their audience, and they now cannot beat the Justice League's cartoon Saturday mornings for ratings.
Well, James, if we can't drag the president and throw his draft dodging ass into prison, maybe we can get his bastard kids involved. What do you think? Hopefully we can at least throw somebody in prison, right? Right? Please, somebody's got to go to jail here.
Welcome back to Velshi and Rule. President Trump's eldest children can possibly breathe a sigh of relief today. That is because the special counsel's report revealed the investigation has not led to indictments for any of them.
Remember, Don Jr. was going to prison.
Yep.
Jared Kushner was going to prison as well. And I'm not even a big fan of, the role that Ivanka and Jared Kushner play in the White House. But there's a big difference between not being a fan and just throwing someone in prison because you're not a fan, right?
Junior, Ivanka, Eric, and Ivanka's husband, Jared Kushner.
Wait till you see the charges they've got against these people. This is watertight. This is rock solid. This is the kind of truth and evidence, James, that could only be uncovered with 22 months, $30 million, and 2,800 subpoenas. Wait until you see the brutal reality of this level of corruption in the White House, James, that MSNBC has uncovered for us to digest.
All in the clear of any charges so far by the Justice Department.
Okay.
But each is mentioned in the report, and some more often than others. Let's start with Don Jr., who makes the most appearances.
Okay.
The report touches on his interactions over the infamous Trump Tower meeting and his correspondence with WikiLeaks. Then there's Ivanka Trump, who also serves as senior White House advisor.
Okay.
She's mentioned as being present at a meeting in the days before the Trump Tower meeting, in which Don Jr. announced he had a lead on, quote, negative information about the Clinton Foundation.
How dare you?
How dare they? Nobody's ever done that in the history of politics. How dare they?
No.
I mean,
no.
Jesus.
You're only allowed to obtain positive information about your opponents in politics, James. Didn't you know that? By the way, you remember that P tape that apparently Trump was getting pissed on by Russian hookers in a Moscow hotel? Yeah, it didn't happen. Yeah. Funny, it's just the way it goes sometimes.
House advisor is mentioned a whole lot of times in the report, including his meeting with Russian ambassador to the United States at Trump Tower.
He met a Russian ambassador? Oh my God. Oh my God. He's practically speaking Russian at this point. What the hell? This is solid. This is solid reporting, Jay. No wonder the Democrats wanted this evidence unearthed for the public, right? Because now everybody could see how corrupt these people are. Wait, they saved the best for last.
And then there's Eric Trump, not mentioned very often, but he is in there for retweeting a Twitter account operated by the Russian Internet Research Company, better known as the IRA.
Wow. That's
James,
unbelievable.
The Mueller report, the serious Mueller report, $30 million, 22 months, 2,800 subpoenas. They had to mention in the Mueller report in regards to collusion with Russia that Eric Trump once retweeted something from an account which had ties to a Russian government agency.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. That's amazing. By the way, just a public service announcement. If you have to repeatedly deny that you're a troll, you're probably a troll. Just so you know.
James, what kind of a world are we living in now where, where people say retweets are not endorsements? Now, retweets are, I am Putin's cockholster. That's what it means. That's if you retweet the wrong thing. That's what it means.
The election. Well, now, a new question is swirling because there are still a dozen referrals of potentially criminal evidence Mueller's team found and were all redacted for reasons of, quote, harm to an ongoing matter.
Right.
We have no idea who's involved or what they're about.
I wonder if he retweeted Stormy Daniels too. Oh shit.
The Democratic Senator of Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal, he's got an idea.
Dirty Dick.
One thing that Bob Mueller did not do here was, in effect, follow the money. None of the financial crimes are in this report.
Listen to what he said. He made a pronouncement there. Listen, see, this is why language is so fucking important to me. It's why I pay attention to how things are worded out of people's mouths. He made a definitive statement. He said he never followed the financial crimes. The financial crimes. That's definitive language saying that there are 100% financial crimes. Not that he looked for them, not that he didn't, try to seek out if there was any. No, this fucking retard just said on national television that there were financial crimes. That is a fucking slanderous statement that this is what these people do. This is how they get away with it. They just fucking smear, spin, and smear. They just keep going. It's a vicious cycle.
They've already decided, James. They'd already decided before the Mueller report came out that President Trump was guilty of X, Y, and Z. Now it turns out that he's not so guilty of X, Y, and Z, but hey, he's got to be guilty of something, right? And so maybe what he's really guilty of is the thing that Robert Mueller wasn't investigating after we spent the last 2 years telling the entire world that what Robert Mueller was investigating was the things that Donald Trump was guilty of. And this is the lesson here. It's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. They're never going to get to a place and say, "Oh, okay, we've exhausted every avenue. We've drawn no conclusions. We can't come to any kind of agreement that Donald Trump. So I guess he's in the clear. Let's just do politics normally again." They are fundamentally changing what politics is, and they are burning everything in their path for this maniacal hatred, James. It's never going to stop. They're never going to slow down. It's only going to get worse.
I'm sorry. Great comment in the chat from YouTube. Ginger Lee over there on YouTube says, only people watching MSNBC are in a coma because someone left the TV on in the room.
Maybe that's what happened to the Cuban people working in the Cuban embassy in the diplomatic building, James. Yeah. Their brain hemorrhages. So let's get back to the topic of impeachment. Because, some people want impeachment and some people don't. Who wants impeachment more than anyone else, James? You'll be pleased to know. Chuck Todd over on MSNBC. Remember how people accuse the media of driving the narrative too hard sometimes? Look at this.
You have all of this case of obstruction presented in the Mueller report. As you just
case of obstruction in the Mueller report. Remember the obstruction that didn't happen? Literally, that's what it says in the report.
Yeah.
That there was no interference, remember? The White House was they gave over all their documents. They cooperated with the investigation time and time again. Look at all this obstruction in the Mueller report. Didn't you see? Eric Trump retweeted something.
Some might ask, why haven't you opened an impeachment inquiry? Or in fairness, is that what you're doing right now?
I don't think we're doing that. We may get to that. We may not. As I've said before, it is our job to go through all the evidence, to all the information we can get, to go where the evidence leads us. I'm sorry?
How much does the politics impact this? As you know, impeachment gets politicized, so you have a legal...
Impeachment gets politicized.
It's a complete political process. The whole thing it's politics from top to bottom.
Can you imagine if they impeach Donald Trump and then supporters of Donald Trump come out and start making cases against impeachment and they'll say, stop politicizing it. You're politicizing this whole thing.
Case that you believe this happens and you should do it, but the politics dictate something else. How much is that going to influence this decision?
I don't know. That'll come down the road when we see what we have. Is this in
Nancy Pelosi's hands?
Among others.
I'm sorry.
She's not the only
Stop
person.
For a second.
She's certainly the leader of the
The fucking chat room has nailed this one once again. What is with these guys and their fucking eyebrows? What the fuck is going on with the eyebrow gate? Look at that fucking eyebrow. Why is it 4 inches higher than the other one? Like, it's permanently stuck like this on his face. I don't understand. I can't. It's a distraction.
He's either a big fan of The Rock, James, or talking to Chuck Todd has induced a small stroke. One or the other. I don't know which it is.
Democratic caucus. She's the Speaker of the House. Okay. It's partly her and partly a lot of other people.
Do you think this is impeachable?
That pause alone. Oh, look at that. Now what do I say? Oh, shit. He just put me on the spot. I didn't expect that question. I'm not mad, Maxine.
No, because Democrats like, I suspect Jerry Nadler and Nancy Pelosi know that it would be political suicide to impeach this guy, especially if you're doing it on the back of things like how many times his son retweeted a Russian account. Like, if that's all you've got, then you've got nothing. You've got nothing. Zero. Bubkus, duck egg, bagel, James. Fuck all. Let's go to CNN, James. Congress should initiate impeachment proceedings against Trump immediately.
President committed a crime. It also does not exonerate him.
The picture that emerges here is really one of the president's aides and advisors and officials trying to protect him from his worst instincts. And this is what the special counsel says on this issue. The president's efforts to influence the investigation were mostly unsuccessful, but that is largely because the persons who surrounded the president declined to carry out orders or accede to his request.
Special Counsel Mueller.
Just take that one line from the Mueller report in isolation. Let's pull it out of that, James, and put it in a vacuum and see exactly what these people are championing here and cheering. So they're saying that Donald Trump needs to be impeached for obstruction of justice, which was unsuccessful. So, i.e., there was no obstruction of justice, but let's impeach him anyway. And the only reason obstruction of justice wasn't successful for Donald Trump is because the people who work around him in his administration deliberately don't do what they're told. Insubordination. So it's like, yay! The staff that work in Washington are insubordinate to the point of not following direct orders and not following directions from the White House. Thank God. Now we can impeach the guy for obstruction of justice, which never happened. Like, I don't even know where to start with this. Remember how people were saying, oh, there's no deep state? There's no such thing as the deep state. So here's the thing. Either there is a deep state and they're deliberately not doing what the White House tells them to do, or there isn't a deep state and Donald Trump can't possibly be guilty of obstruction of justice. Which one do you want? Which one's best here?
Dude, we just got a bump in pay. I got to tell you this. You and I have just been elevated to, we're like Alex Jones level. In the chat, the Catholic Tourette's victim, Gary, says you guys are they're talking to someone else in the chat, are listening to conspiracy disinfo agents. Wow. We are now conspiracy disinfo agents. We're literally playing nothing but left-wing mainstream media sources reading their words, and we are the conspiracy disinformation agents. I fucking love it. Where's my pay raise? Everybody get this out. Get it to the presses. Tell everybody we are now bigger than Alex Jones.
No, we can do better than that, James. We're actually working for these guys. Let's go.
How are we supposed to salute? I don't remember. Is it
Congress
like this?
should launch impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump for welcoming Russian interference, James, in 2016 election and trying to obstruct the Mueller investigation. Trump's high crimes and misdemeanors stare us in the face, and each day he remains in power is a day closer to the collapse of the rule of law. Trump welcomed Russian interference in 2016 election while signaling readiness to shift U.S. foreign policy in favor of Mother Russia by ending sanction. Russian President Vladimir Putin unleashed security apparatus to hack DNC email and launched disinformation campaign to troll the elections through Facebook and other means, according to Mueller's report. While Mueller did not find conclusive evidence that member of Russia Trump campaign conspired with Russian government on hacking and disinformation campaign, they knew that Russia offered assistance and expected Trump campaign would benefit electorally from information stolen and resist through Russian efforts. There you go. We're out.
We're out.
They've got us, James. They caught us.
Da, comrade, da. Get my vodka.
James, why impeachment is imperative. More disinformation coming at you from your favorite conspiracy pushers. Trust and verify. Fear using only Washington Post, CNN, New York Times, etc., etc. Fear is not a governing principle, and impeachment is not a dirty word. It is a constitutional one, James. Democrats' fear of a backlash at the polls is no reason to avoid their constitutional responsibility to begin a formal impeachment proceeding against Donald Trump. This is a complex decision, but given the evidence presented in Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III's report, it is not a difficult one. The special counsel did not have a pathway to hold Trump accountable for obstruction of justice. Congress does. He failed. Congress can pick up the slack, James. One more story before I go to you for a comment. The Mueller report is an irrefutable case that Trump is unfit for office. Wow, what a fucking bombshell. They've only been saying that for the last 3 years. This is how it's done. In the endless degrading cacophony of the Trump era, in which the tweet storm and the flame war, the sneering insult, the facile certainty of cable punditry have become the customary form of legal and political discourse, I had almost forgotten what the language of the law sounds like. But there it is in the 448 pages of the Mueller report. Logical, cautious, painstaking, measured, dry, yet inexorably compelling. One may quibble about the details, but as taken as a whole, Mueller's product is an exemplar of the prosecutor's craft and a powerful reminder of why a Justice Department imbued with norms of independence and professionalism is an essential counterweight to both presidential overreach and partisan hysteria. Partisan hysteria, James. Remember, in the Mueller report, they were talking often about, well, this guy is rumored to have said this to this guy, therefore we can get an inference that Donald Trump was really mad that day. That's the kind of thing we were reading in the Mueller report.
When I read articles like that and I hear that type of language, the first immediate, when you have 7 words in one paragraph that the common normal American doesn't use, you're talking to a pseudo-intellect. This is a person who just doesn't understand that they're not intelligent. They think they're intelligent because they have book smarts of some type, but they're completely pseudo-intellectual. People don't speak like that. Nobody. Not even, unless you're trying to be some kind of T.S. Eliot retread, you don't use words like facile in the same fucking paragraph that then you put on a string-on, listed, bulleted sentence of fucking, it's just retardedness. Like literally the way that it reads. It's like, it's literally your Robert S. Mueller III type of fucking British fake bullshit language that's being written. And it's annoying as shit. Like to me, it's just like, all right, this guy's too stupid to even write. So move on. Next story.
Well, they like to bamboozle you with language.
Yeah.
You know, they like to bamboozle you with the over the top hyperbolic, really laid on thick language, because then it puts you in a submissive state rather than an aggressive state, right? But here's a guy who's never been accused of sounding too smart, James. Soros. Eric Soros. He puts it in more simple terms. Very, very simple.
That Donald Trump and Eric Trump, the president's 2 sons, have said that they've had money flowing in from Russia into the Trump organization. What? And also we know the president's lender, the Trump organization, Deutsche Bank, has been fined as recently as 2017, $300 million for a $10 billion Russian money laundering scheme. So if you pair those two up, Russian money coming in to the Trump organization, the lender that the Trump organization uses has been fined recently for Russian money laundering. You have reason to look to see if the president has been financially compromised by the Russians. That would be a new line of inquiry.
So that what you just outlined is circumstantial.
Yeah.
That is.
I would say probable cause is the word I'd use.
Probable cause.
What?
Law.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Everybody right now, if you have an account, a loan, anything with Deutsche Bank, you are fucking guilty. You have probable cause against you of colluding with the Russians. Every single member of the entire planet that uses Deutsche Bank is now guilty of Russian collusion. Holy fuck me. Isn't it like this? I don't remember. Is it like this? It's been so long since I've been to Mother Russia, I forgot how to salute.
It's certainly something that.
Oh, yeah. How did the Russians do it? I'm not sure. I think they grab him on the pussy, James, as an ode to their president. I think
there you
that's
go.
How it's done.
That's how it's done.
You want answered when you're talking about the President of the United States.
So as President Trump himself has said, it's not illegal for an American developer to try to do a deal in Russia. It's not illegal to get financing from Russian lenders and things like that. It's not illegal to have customers who buy from Russia who buy your apartments. So what could the Virginia...
Look, I don't think we need to get caught up on what's legal and illegal. Let's just say Russia. If we just say Russia, and that's all we need to say. That's all that needs to be done. So Swalwell doesn't want impeachment, James. I think I want to get your thoughts on this before we get to the hammering. I think Pelosi and Schumer and the like are just trying their best to placate they're trying to placate the urges of the hard left in their own party who want to impeach. As we just read, from Slate, CNN, the Washington Post, impeach. But I think, Nancy and Chuck, for all their failings, are probably too smart to go down that road. But here's the thing. What if they can find a way to do both things at once? So in the media and the Ocasio-Cortezes and the like, pushing for impeachment, but then the leaders and the Democrat headquarters saying, no, the best way to impeach the guy is at the ballot box. So everybody focus on that. That way you can maintain the rage in the hard left, but you can direct that rage into something effective, which is winning at the ballot box, which won't then, get them slaughtered in 2020 if they do move to impeach. So I think they'll just keep asking the question, having the fog out there. Should we impeach? Shouldn't we impeach? We don't know enough. Maybe we should. Impeachment needs to stay on the table, and it will be on the table right up to the election. What do you think?
It's going to stay on the table as long as they can keep people talking about it. That's all. It's just going to keep going until the American people are so numb that people quit talking back about it and see if they can keep sliding it in. It's all about that same thing. If you say a lie long enough, it'll eventually become the truth. And here's a perfect example. They want to look, everybody that owns anything to do with Deutsche Bank is clearly now Russian, but I would love to point out that it's Deutsche Bank, Dutch or Deutsch or German, Germanic, it's basically over there in fucking Europe. And then Russia wanted a pipeline and was selling tons and tons of natural gas to who? Germany. So let's just go back and say that they were fined $300 million for a money laundering scheme with Russia, who sells the most amount of gas to Germany. I would say that there's a much bigger scandal on the left than ever to do with Donald Trump, which is shocking, right? I know, shocking that I would come to that conclusion.
Yeah, Angela Merkel, Mutti, they call her in Germany, James, Mutti. She hates the Russians, but she loves that sweet Russian cash. Tell you what. All right. On this question of impeachment, I thought we'd go to the smartest man in Congress for this week's edition of The Hammering, James.
Awesome.
Stop the hammering.
Ted Lieu.
Senator Elizabeth Warren became the first 2020 presidential candidate to explicitly call on the House to begin impeachment proceedings. Here she is on the campaign trail.
Gee, she's going to be the most popular candidate going around, doesn't she, Elizabeth Warren? Yeah. We need to tax everybody. We need to tax everybody into oblivion. I've got 200 millionaires who want to pay more money and want everybody else to pay more money too. I want to break up companies after they've merged years later, if I think, that they're doing the wrong thing, and I want to impeach a popular president. Like, well done, Elizabeth Warren. She's also got the biggest campaign team. Did you know that, James? Out of all of the candidates, she's got the biggest campaign team. So, well, I just, my first thought was, wow, that casino money really comes in handy sometimes, doesn't it?
On New Hampshire earlier today.
We cannot be an America that says it is okay for a president of the United States to try to block investigations into a foreign attack on our country or investigations into that president's own misbehavior. So
she's got the crazy hand thing going on when she talks. I think
she's been taking
needs to give her a beer.
She's been taking lessons from Beto. They've learned that that's effective. If you're constantly doing this and acting like you're spaced out and crack, it's a campaign strategy.
I think she's got the DTs, James. She's coming down. Someone needs to put a beer in her hand. Stat.
Have called on the House to initiate impeachment proceedings.
Yay!
But the House Judiciary Committee controls the process of impeachment, and while Chairman Nadler plans to call Robert Mueller himself to testify publicly before the committee and has already subpoenaed the full, unredacted version of the report, to which the Justice Department responded, saying Nadler's subpoena was premature and unnecessary. Nadler has stopped short and is...
This is the other thing I forgot to mention when we were going over those stories about Maxine and Jerry Nadler hitting William Barr before his press conference. We demand the report. We demand the report. So they want to talk about constructing a narrative. He always said, yeah, you'll get it. You're going to get the report. That's fine. But day after day after day, hour after hour on cable news, Democrats and pundits were out there pretending like that wasn't the case. Just flat out lying to everybody. Oh, we need to keep the pressure on because we demand to see the report. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to show it to you. I'll show it to you. Shut up. We demand the full report. Stop covering for Donald Trump, you hack.
Well, of calling for impeachment.
I believe he committed obstruction of justice, yes, but it's not up to me. It's up to...
You're the chairman of the Judiciary Committee.
There's that eyebrow.
It was up to Robert Mueller. What happened to that? What happened to that?
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, if it's always been up to Congress, James, why did the Mueller investigation happen at all?
That's right.
What's the point of it?
What's the point? Why didn't Congress just have open hearings and settle it from the start?
Doesn't Congress have more power? Correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't Congress have more power than a special counsel to gather evidence and stuff? Or am I wrong on that?
No, actually, they don't have any authority at all to gather evidence. They don't have an investigative body. Now, what they can do is they can appoint.
That's a shame.
I think there's still a statute that they created now that they can appoint a special counsel on their own, which would then still provide all of the evidence to the Attorney General. So it's basically does not. But, with them in charge, they would get more leaks is what they would think. But, I mean, when Andrew Weissman was debriefing them 3 times a day, I don't know how you could get more leaks than that.
Well, James, I'm glad you've cleared that up for me, obviously, because then why would Jerry Nadler say that it's up to Congress to decide whether or not that Donald Trump broke the rules if they can't gather evidence? See, I know, I'm a bit lost here. 2 weeks ago, it was Robert Mueller's job to decide whether there is obstruction of justice. Now that the report came out and said, well, we don't really know. We can't really tell you either way. Now, all of a sudden, it's Congress's job to investigate whether he obstructed justice. But then if I ask you, well, why did we have the Mueller report to begin with? Can't Congress just get all the information? Well, no, they can't. Oh, so I guess it's Robert Mueller's job then.
Yeah, in fact, the proof that the Congress has no power, no authority at all, even in the case of somebody lying to Congress, notably committing perjury to Congress, they have to refer the criminal charge to the Attorney General. That's it. They have no prosecutorial authority. They can't convene grand juries. They cannot get into a court of law. Like, they have nothing. They cannot do a fucking thing. Like, they literally are. That's the point. We did that on purpose in our country because of this exact shit we're watching happen right now. This is why Congress has no authority. Is because if you gave it to them, we would be under the most tyrannical position you could imagine. It would be worse than having a king, because I would much rather have a single king than, 42 assholes running around trying to make us all crazy.
Well, James, I just want to refer you back to one of the early articles we touched on from the Washington Post, otherwise known as Russian propaganda now. Impeachment is building the record, James. Considering a resolution in the Judiciary Committee conducting an investigation pursuant to that resolution and referring articles of impeachment to the full House, so Democrats should stop using the language of oversight and accountability for what takes place next. They should instead, in the manner of a home plate umpire, call the strike. Use the constitutional framework and its language to sort out this mess and hold the president responsible for his actions. Look at this. Trump is not a king. But we must use the Constitution as it was conceived to ensure he does not become one. So I find it interesting, right? Because, Jerry Nadler is here trying to tell me that it's Congress's job to, conduct an investigation and decide whether or not Donald Trump obstructed justice. The Washington Post is now saying that it's Congress's job, but we know that that's factually incorrect.
That's right.
Because otherwise, if it was their job, Robert Mueller would never have got the job in the first place. Let me show you now the next couple of Democrats who are they're doing an old switcheroo here. Oh, no, it's always been Congress's job to decide. It's never been up to Robert Mueller. Really? Why'd he get the fucking job?
Open impeachment proceedings.
Well, we have to, but we're not there. We have to now, because the special process, because Barr misled the country. We have to
He nearly said because the special counsel misled the country. And he corrected himself. Oh, no, it's all William Barr's fault. It's all William Barr's fault.
We will on May 2nd. We have to hear from Mueller and ask him a lot of questions. We have to hold hearings and hear from other people.
Meanwhile, the president, who's down at his resort in Florida for the holiday weekend, using Twitter to brand the entire Mueller investigation, quote, the greatest witch hunt in U.S. political history and a burden on taxpayers. So it's up to the Democrats right now what they might do next. We're just talking
Notice
about
that. Did you see that? Did you see that?
Panel, Congressman Ted Lieu of
Say again?
You have to notice that. They couldn't, they literally played all of the first part of the clip. The very next graphic would have been zero collusion, and they cut that shit off. Zero obstruction, and they cut that shit off. That's the very next graphics. Anything that was good for the president, they cut that right off the graphic. And I'm sure it's just because of time. I'm sure it was just due to time because the extra 3 seconds would have killed them to play the whole thing.
Remember, James, we hate it when people take things out of context, don't we? We
That's
really
right.
hate that here at the mainstream press. We really dislike that kind of thing. We really dislike that kind of selective editing that happens over there in the conservative websites, James. We really dislike that, don't we?
Yeah.
California, a member of the Judiciary Committee representing the Congressional Asian Caucus, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty of Ohio, vice chair of the Black.
Look, I don't even know why this is a thing, but we've got a representative from the Asian Caucus. I didn't even know there was an Asian Caucus. When did that happen?
Yeah.
We've got a representative from the Black Caucus and a representative from the Latino Caucus. The main thing here is, though, in my opinion, is they're all Democrats. How about that? Let's make that the starting point. We've got 3 Democrats on the. So in order to feign some kind of, like diverse range of opinions here. Oh, look, we've got the Asian Caucus, the Black Caucus, the Latino Caucus. Wait, you've got 3 Democrats, right? 3 Democrats. Okay.
Caucus and Texas Congressman Vicente Gonzalez from the Hispanic Caucus. Thank you, all 3. Representative Lieu.
Yes, James.
It just makes my brain hurt. Like the how they have to try to force the literal segregation minority positions and try to treat like that's how to be inclusive. It doesn't. It's like this opposite world. It's bizarro world where things are backwards, and it's like every single time we have to hear from these people purely because they're Democrats. That's their unifying factor. But look, we like these people, we like those people, we like these people. Why are you segregating them? How about they're just fucking American congressmen? Why is this such a difficult concept to understand? Their own language is segregationist. Their own language is what's isolating people from each other. If they would just learn to treat people based on the content of their character, we would already be in a much more harmonious position. But these fucking idiots keep segregating everybody.
Okay. Are you done with that rant, Adolf? Can we continue, Mr. Hitler? Don't get angry, Adolf. It's all right. It's all right. You Nazi. Bigot.
Thank you.
What should we be looking forward from Democrats going forward? You heard the introduction. There are certainly at least 2 camps, right, that are saying, yes, move forward quickly and expediently.
Ted Lieu always has that look on his face like, I can't decide whether he's really, really interested or really, really dumb. You know what I mean? Like, you can't tell the difference. He's like, he might be intently focused on what's being said, or he might be intently focused on what's being said because none of it makes sense. You know what I mean?
With the impeachment process, others saying, well, let's wait to get more information first. Nadler, Chairman Nadler, right there saying, let's hear from Barr and Mueller first.
Thank you, Richard, for your question.
It's just all side. It's circus. What can Robert Mueller actually say to these people in a hearing that he hasn't written in the report? Like, do you think that he's going to come into the hearing and go, "Thanks for inviting me down here because I've got the P tape. I've got it here. I was waiting to show you in person. Has everybody brought their popcorn? Like, thanks so much for inviting me to this hearing, Congressman. Now I can give you the real report," right? Like, that one was just a fake report. So here's the real juicy stuff. None of that's going to happen. He's only going to say what he wrote in the report. Well, when you wrote this in the report, what were you referring to? I was referring to the conversation that I spoke about in the report, Congressman. He's not going to say anything different. He's not going to come up with any new information. It's all bullshit. It's all a circus act.
Honor for me to be on your show.
But it's a circus act for a reason, isn't it, James? It's to keep the conversation going.
That's right.
Because if you put a full stop on this thing, then it's over. Then they have to come up with plan B. They need a new plan then to run on in 2020.
Holy shit.
So you invite Barr down. You go ahead.
I'm sorry, dude. You know how it is. I just laugh inappropriately and interrupt at the most inappropriate times. K. Smithy one said in response to Ted Lieu there and your question of, what was he referring or what was he acting like? He said, this is the comment. He said, he could be feeling the gerbil his husband put in.
I didn't know he was married to Richard Gere. Isn't that nice? Well done, Ted Lieu. Well done. You've got another comment of the week. An officer and a gentleman.
With Representatives Gonzalez and Beatty. If you look at the Mueller report, Robert Mueller very clearly basically said it's Congress's job to look at the obstruction of justice facts and to make a determination. And that's what the House Judiciary Committee is going to do. We're going to hold hearings, interview witnesses under oath, gather additional documents, and then get the full unredacted Mueller report. And then at the end of the day, we're either going to clear Donald Trump or we're not. And if we don't, then I'll opt.
Does anybody think that Ted Lieu is going to turn around one day and go, "Donald Trump's innocent. We're clearing his name. He's fine. Congratulations, Mr. President." That's not going to happen. They've already decided. Look at the next guest when she starts speaking. How, like, you want proof that they've already decided and they're not actually looking for facts or anything, my Democratic comrades? You say, "Oh, wait for the facts, wait for the facts, wait for the facts." I know you're lying. Watch this.
Options should remain on the table, including impeachment.
Representative Beatty, do you agree with Representative Lieu on this? And how do you see the two sides there on the Democratic side as they are looking at either to move forward with impeachment more steadily or more forcefully or more or faster or to slow go it?
Thank you, Richard. And I also would like to thank my colleagues for being here. I think what you're going to see is Democrats moving forward. After having just a few days to review the 400...
Just one thing. Who thanks other guests on a show? Like, it's not your show, darling, Joyce. Like, why is she thanking other people for being on the show? It's not her show. Fucking hell.
I don't understand why you waste. You're on network television. Literally, we're here. We're on a nothing show, right? We're on Periscope. We got like 5 people that watch us. We're the smallest potato in the fucking ocean. I know that's not even a metaphor, but the point that I'm trying to say here is that
the Irish too. Then you hate the Irish too, Hitler. Jesus.
When you get on a program, the idea is, come on, bring it, bring it, bring it. The idea is not to sit there and suck the host's ass for the first 5, 15, 20 seconds of every single comment you make. This is what these politicians do. Like when you're at the town hall and, they say, the frickin' announcer, this comment is from one of your constituents, James R. from the Honolulu district. And I ask a question like, why are you stupid? The first answer that they give us, well, thank you very much for that great question there, James. Let me see if I can stump longer so that the next person has less time to answer a question. It's ridiculous. You're on national television. Get to the fucking answer. Pick, go, and move. But these guys all have to waste time with this flowery bullshit that means nothing.
Yeah, and James, look, I know we're getting really close to the end of the show, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for being on the show with me. It's an absolute pleasure. And I'm definitely not trying to pad out time until we get to the end. That's definitely not what I'm doing here. Your contribution is always welcome. Thanks for joining us on the show, as always, James. Thank you so much.
It's very clear that this president was wrong, immoral, corrupt, unethical, and unpatriotic. I think you
unpatriotic, James. He was unpatriotic. I know why. Maybe it'll work better with this.
We're going to see the Democrats, and I'm very pleased to be vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. We know that when we look at the Oversight and Investigation Committee, Congressional Black Caucus member and chair Elijah Cummings is represented there. Joining Ted Lieu on the Judiciary and the chair, we have the current chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus and the former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congressman Cedric Richmond. I think what you're going to see us ask for what the American people want. They want him removed from office, but
unpatriotic. They want him removed from office. But she just named all of the Congressional Black Caucus members, James. It sounds like that's what the Black Caucus members want.
Yeah.
So, oh, yes, we've got this Black Caucus member, this Black Caucus member, this Black Caucus member, and we're going to do what the American people want, not the Black Caucus. So, no, I don't represent the Black Caucus. I represent all of America. The president is unpatriotic, corrupt. He's already guilty.
Great spelling of the Black Caucus in the chat room. It's COCKUS.
The caucus.
They also
Olivia Dukakis.
want us to have transparency, and they want clarity.
That's what I want to see. The Asian caucus, the Hispanic caucus, the Black caucus, and the Olivia Dukakis, James.
I'm looking forward to having AG Barr subpoenaed. I'm looking forward to getting more information from...
I'm looking forward to having AG Barr subpoenaed, James. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a great time. Should be a great... Invite the gang. Invite your friends over. We'll have popcorn.
Because I don't think you can make that final decision until you have full transparency, and certainly we know what Barr did to that report, and we're not going to stand for it to be whitewashed.
These guys don't understand. They do not understand that subpoenaing AG Barr. No, sorry. They don't understand subpoenaing AG Barr is the last thing they ever will want to do. Because when he gets in front of them, he will rip them to shreds. These people don't understand the law. They have no idea what the law even fucking is. Ask Mazie Hirono. These people are going to get slaughtered when AG Barr gets in front of them.
I don't know if they'll get slaughtered or he'll just bore them to death. You know what I mean? He might just bore them to death.
Why did you use the term unprecedented? Why did you use the term unprecedented? Well, are you aware of any precedent? Well, no. Well, that's what the fucking word means, you dumbass. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what they're going to get.
Well, James, like Jerry Nadler said, it was Robert Mueller's job to come up with a decision on whether or not Donald Trump obstructed justice. He can't do that, so now it's Congress's job, which means we never should have hired Mueller in the first place because Congress has more power. Wait, Congress doesn't have more power, so I guess we need to hire Robert Mueller. So he wrote a report, but you know what? I don't know. Robert Mueller didn't really decide whether or not there was enough for obstruction of justice. That's okay, Robert. We'll take it up because we shouldn't make any decisions before we get all the facts. And why shouldn't we make any decisions before we get all the facts? Because we wouldn't want to be like Donald Trump, who is corrupt and unpatriotic and needs to be removed from office. Ladies and gentlemen, there's your hammering.
Stop the hammering.
Hey, thanks everybody for being here. That's about all the time we got for you today. A special shout out to the Catholic Tourette's victim in the chat. We missed you when everything went to shit and you were completely wrong on Mueller. We've noticed your absence. We're glad you finally gotten your handlers to feed you back into the lexicon here, ready to go again and spout your Natalie nonsense all over the place. But thanks for being here. We love all the trolls here. For Boogie Bumper, for me, thank you very much and happy Easter one more time. If you want to follow him, you can follow him at Boogie Bumper. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at RealPersonPLTCS. If you want to follow Mother Racha, you can follow them at RT. And if you want to follow us together, you can find us at TAB Show. And all of your favorite episodes will be on TABShow.com. Everybody have a great night. Aloha.
Victory is not winning for our party. Victory is winning for our country. This year, America will recognize two important anniversaries that show us the majesty of America's mission and the power of American pride. In June, we mark 75 years since the start of what General Dwight D. Eisenhower called the Great Crusade, the Allied liberation of Europe in World War II. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, 15,000 young American men jumped from the sky and 60,000 more stormed in from the sea to save our civilization from tyranny. Here with us tonight are three of those incredible heroes. Private First Class Joseph Riley, Staff Sergeant Irving Locker, and Sergeant Herman Zaitchik. Please.